Chick-fil-A caves to the rage mob. I'll tell you why it's actually kind of dangerous. Our borders still wide open, still nobody in DC cares, but you and I care. And finally, the proper way to plow snow, or should I say, not plow snow. All that's coming up right now on I'm Right. Chick-fil-A, oh Chick-fil-A, why have you betrayed me? Ladies and gentlemen, for the longest time, we have all enjoyed Chick-fil-A. I'm sure we'll all, well, at least some of us will still continue to enjoy Chick-fil-A. And what do we love about that? Look, it's a restaurant. It's a fast food restaurant. Their food is glorious. Their service is amazing. I can only assume neither of those two things are going to change. But part of the reason we enjoyed Chick-fil-A was it was a gigantic screw you to the left. You see, once Chick-fil-A came out and said, hey, we're a Christian-based company. This is what we feel. We're Christian. That's really all they said. They weren't anti-anybody. They didn't say this person sucks or that group sucks. They didn't say they hated anyone. The furthest thing from it. All they said was we're a Christian organization. Well, off of that, the LGBT bully mob that has gotten far too powerful and far too big for its britches in the United States of America, they have been coming for Chick-fil-A. And when I say coming for them, I mean relentless attacks. We all remember the infamous boycott they tried to organize against Chick-fil-A, which hilariously failed and resulted in the biggest day of sales in Chick-fil-A history, as everybody on the right decided to go out and say, you know what, nah, I don't think you're going to do that to them this day. And Chick-fil-A's never wavered. They're closed on Sunday. People enjoy it. People enjoy not just the traditional values of it. They enjoy the food. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. They enjoy the fact that Chick-fil-A is one of the very few corporations in the United States of America that still has stood up to the leftist rage mob and said, no, we are who we are. We do what we do. I mean, you turn on the television, it's everywhere now. We have that Sprite commercial, that horrible looking Sprite commercial that I am not going to play for you in its entirety. I'm not even going to play the sound with it. I'm just going to show you a very brief clip of it here. Why am I not playing it for you? Because it's disgusting. No, I'm not sorry to say that parents brutally manipulating their own children and encouraging them to mutilate themselves is not something I will ever support on this show. And thank God for the first, where I don't have to mince my words about things like this. Oh, they're not alone. Remember Gillette? Gillette decided to roll out a similar ad. I'll only, again, play you a small portion of it, with a father teaching his trans son, daughter, whatever, how to shave, which cost the company of Gillette $2.8 billion, because everybody looked and said, what is this? I just want to buy a razor. Why can't I buy a razor? But back to Chick-fil-A. This is why it stinks so bad. Because everybody seems to cave in the end. That's one. And two, it seems like there's no escape from leftism. And that is a scary place to be as a nation. And I'll tell you why it's a scary place to be. It's not about a chicken sandwich. It's really not. Why it's a scary place to be is you never want to be in a place or put someone else in a place where they feel like there's no hope or when they feel like there's nothing to lose. And the leftists' relentless tactics of invading every single thing and forcing every single company and entity and person to bend to their will is going to create a backlash. And I don't know what that backlash looks like, but it is going to be ugly. And the American left is not unique in this. Keep in mind, I mean, the Bolsheviks, after the Bolshevik commie revolution in Russia, the very first thing they did was the crowd stood up there and shouted, abolish the passports, abolish the passports. And do you know why they said abolish the passports? Do you know why the left couldn't let you and I simply have one fast food organization that did things the right way? Do you know why? Because the most basic tenet of leftism is you cannot, under any circumstances, be allowed to escape from it. It's not an accident, ladies and gentlemen. You can't do math in Seattle without finding out how much America sucks and that leftism is great. You can't kick back and turn on an NFL football game. Oh, look, they're kneeling for a flag. Oh, because America sucks. You can't watch a Hollywood movie. You apparently can't even eat a chicken sandwich. You dang sure can't send your kids to school. We've covered these things time and time again. You can't call the FBI. You can't call the State Department. You can't call the IRS. everywhere you go. It's endless. You're surrounded. If it feels like you're surrounded and the forces are building up around you, it's because you are. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to make you aware of the conditions on the ground. And the conditions on the ground are the hungry, ravenous wolf known as leftism has not been sated. And they won't be sated by Chick-fil-A caving either. Oh, do you want to know the details of the cave? It gets much worse as I go into the details. Chick-fil-A will now no longer donate to the Salvation Army and the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, those two wonderful organizations who just help people. That's all they do is help people. Now they're not going to get any more Chick-fil-A money because they're Christian. People, the culture war is not only real, it is the war. The next election, the next political fight we have is not going to be, or at least shouldn't be, about taxes and spending. It shouldn't be about anything but the fact we have allowed the left to invade and take over every aspect of this culture. And why have we done it? Because we're too afraid to make the fights. Because we get too ashamed. Stop, bigot. And we go, oh, okay, sorry. Please forgive me. Don't be mad at me. I promise I'm not bigoted. Hey, look, here's my tranny friend Larry. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be mean to anybody. You don't have to single anybody out, but you don't have to sacrifice everything you stand for just so the left will think you're nice. Because let me tell you people something. Come closer. They hate you for what you believe, and they always will. Anything beyond complete subservience to the left, they will view you as the enemy. You think Chick-fil-A gained anything with this? They'll be just as hated. They caved to the mob. Why? Oh, they came right out and said, well, we understand we're going to be expanding, and, for business reasons. You see, the left, they don't just have their power. As I've told you several times before, the left uses their power. Cities like San Antonio, cities like Boston, I've already said, won't be any Chick-fil-A here. Not as long as they're so anti-LBGT or Q or whatever they're calling themselves now. Cities like an airport entities like an airport in Delaware. Nope, can't have Chick-fil-A here. They're not pro-gay enough. They're not pro-transsexual enough. You're allowed to be a Christian in the United States of America and believe in the Bible. That's part of why the country was founded in the first place. If anybody is hostile to those views, that person can screw off. And you should tell them to screw off. And let me send a little message out there to you Christians. Don't do this thing that I've seen far too often, and it makes me sick to my stomach. As soon as you get challenged with something like this, with somebody in your face, challenging what you believe and beating you down, you know what I see far too often? Well, the Bible says we should turn the other cheek. That verse in the Bible was not an excuse for you to be a coward. Stand up for what you believe, because they're taking your culture away, and it's not just going to be you that's affected by it, it's going to be your children. I can no longer watch a football game and leave the television on while I leave the room for fear of what my children will see during a commercial break. I have to take my kids out of government schools, and I have, because I don't want some nutso second grade teacher telling my son he should be a girl. I have to monitor what they consume at all times, and so do you. But we also have to start pushing back, because they're never going to stop. I know you may think, well, we still have this. Well, we still have that. I still have this. I still have my church. Oh, I still have my neighborhood association. I said, no, ladies and gentlemen, no. You won't have them for long. There is nothing in your life the left does not want to invade, infest, and take over. It's true, and you know it. Stop being cowardly, stop being weak, stop being afraid to stand up for what you believe. It's not about being intolerant of anybody. You are perfectly free in this country to believe whatever the heck you want to believe, and anybody who doesn't like it better have to rip that freedom from your cold, dead hands. Don't forget it. We have a lively show tonight, as you can see. I'm a little bit fired up. We have a man who knows a little something about leftist violence, Andy Ngo, coming up next. All that, by the way, have made you really uncomfortable, but I'm right. Hang on. Very special guest time here on I'm Right. Editor at large for the Post Millennial, Andy Ngo, and the man who knows more about Antifa than anybody I've ever talked to in my life, mainly because he just doesn't, cowboy couch the whole thing. He's out there right in the middle of it. In fact, he's out there getting assaulted by these psychopaths with injuries and everything else. Andy, first of all, tell us how you were healing up. It is my understanding, and correct me if I screw any of this up, it was a Portland Antifa protest or rally or whatever you want to call it, where you got hit with some, they call them assault gloves, I believe, couldn't get any police support. Give us a brief recap on what happened there.
That was the 29th of June. So over 4.5 months ago now, I was beaten by a mob of masked militants who are part of or affiliated with Antifa. They left me with a brain hemorrhage, and all these many months out, there hasn't been a single arrest. I'm still dealing with issues related to memories, and I'm continuing to speak out because my pursuit for justice is not over.
Not a single arrest. That is honestly, it's beyond belief. It's not as if this happened out in the rural places somewhere. Everybody's seen the video of it. Everybody's watched it. It's a major United States city. We have a supposedly a major United States police force, but that's fine. I don't want to go off on that at the time being. Let me just ask you this, as somebody who knows a lot about these guys: who are Antifa? Who is it that's involved in this group? Who's organizing this group? I think a lot of people just see them online. They're all dressed in black. They look kind of dorky. I'm sure they smell, but they're always hurting someone or doing something radical. Where do these people come from? Who are they?
Antifa groups have existed in the United States really since the late 70s. So that ideology has been around, but it existed on the fringes. Since the surprise election of Donald Trump in 2016, they've exploded onto more of the mainstream and have become a full-blown American phenomena because of, I blame, the rhetoric from irresponsible politicians and media who have mainstreamed the panic around fascism in the United States. So there are many Antifa groups across the United States as well as Western Europe, and some of them have the name Antifa in it, some of them don't. A small number of them are involved in the street hooliganism, which is the organized violence against individuals and property and the state. But many of them work through legal means, through organizing legal protests that dog whistle and bring in a extremist element that they know will come, and they do nothing to expunge.
Now, what exactly is it do they want, or what do they believe? Because I honestly, I've looked into it myself. I can't get something out of it. I mean, is it taxes? Is it spending? Are they all commies? Are they all, environmental activists? Are they abortionists? What do they believe in?
It's a far left radical coalition, primarily of communists and anarchists, but there are extremist eco activists in there as well. They're agitating for a revolution. They really believe that we can do communism right this time by bringing in elements of anarchy that would allow them to have communism without the state authoritarianism. Of course, historically, you can just look at the societies and countries that have incorporated Antifa ideology into its state ideology and rhetoric. I'm thinking primarily of the former East Germany. And you can see that what happens is there's no way to escape the authoritarianism, and what comes with that is the Stasi, which is a large apparatus, a network of informants that spy on citizens, and that's actually what they do in this country on a much less organized scale. You can see how when it comes to their reconnaissance activities, doxing is primarily what they do in addition to the violence on the streets.
Now, explain that, Andy. What happened? Did you gave a speech recently, and I believe it was Heritage. Did something happen there?
Yes, so there was efforts to organize, to picket, and to protest and to potentially disrupt the event. But it's right on Capitol Hill. It's extremely secured area. The Heritage Foundation also has its own private security. So when the agitators realized that they couldn't actually disrupt the event, they shifted their tactics into using the event to spy. So they brought in their ideologues, and what they did was they used the opportunity to take photos of people who were in the audience to cross-check it with their lists of other people, as well as to compile new evidence to add to their databases of who they suspect of being a secret fascist.
Have they sent you private things? What has happened to you personally from these guys?
Well, what they've done is they tried to target my family because they haven't been able to bring me down. So they do a lot of harassment, intimidation tactics. My address was released online, and on Halloween, 6 of them showed up to my family's home wearing mask printouts of my face and were pounding on the doors, pounding on the windows. Of course, by the time the police got there, they were already gone. All these are meant to, I mean, it's gang activity, right? It's meant to intimidate those who are willing to stand up against them into silence. And if you don't be silent, as I have refused to, they will beat and try to kill you.
Hold on, 6 of them showed up to your family's home? How did they even get your address?
They have developed very sophisticated ways to find personal information on people. So one of the ways that you actually gain status when you're a part of the militant Antifa groups is through doxing. So you gain status through beating up people on the streets, but also through obtaining personal information that could be used to harm them. So in my particular case, I can't get into too many details, but because I report all my attacks and intimidations to the state, to law enforcement, unfortunately, those who are supposed to redact information on public records failed to do so in one particular instance when it came to me.
Andy Ngo, editor-at-large of the Post Millennial, thank you so much for giving us some time tonight, man. You stay safe out there, brother. I wish you the best. Keep doing what you do. It's real journalism.
Thanks for having me on.
You bet. There are several issues that matter to the American people. Look, we all have our thing, taxes, spending, abortion, whatever it may be, foreign policy. But there is one issue out there that creates the largest disconnect between the public, between what almost everyone in the public feels and what almost everybody who makes laws and covers politics for a living feels, and that is illegal immigration. A new poll just came out this morning showing 70% of Americans want stronger immigration enforcement, and that's not some kind of outlier poll. Poll after poll after poll after poll show the American people want a stronger southern border and then want more deportations, not less. You see, you can't turn on the news. You can't turn on a Hollywood movie anymore without some infomercial out there about the plight of the illegal immigrants in this country. And we didn't cross the border crossed us, and all that stupid nonsense. And it's both parties in D.C. when it comes to politics, too. It's Republicans who want the cheap labor. It's Democrats who know they're guaranteed Democrat votes. And you know what gets done on the border? What actually gets done? Nothing. I mean, Donald Trump has been very successful so far in building some new border wall and increasing some deportations. But if you actually look into the subject and find out how many illegal immigrants are here in the United States versus how many we're able to deport, you would cry in your hands. Do you know the estimates are 10 to 20 million illegal immigrants, which some people will laugh at. Some will tell you it's 30 to 40 million. But let's just go on the low end and say it's 10 million. Do you know how many employees we have in ICE in the United States of America? Do you know? Do you want to take a guess? Allow me to destroy your guess. 6,000. 6,000. Oh, but it gets better. Do you know how many of those ICE employees are actually tasked with the apprehension and deportation of illegal immigrants? Wait for it. About half that. 3,000 people, ladies and gentlemen, versus 10 million. Oh, and I forgot to mention, hold on. 100,000 new ones every month. The problem with illegal immigration is not just not going away, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And as the Titanic fills up with water, nobody seems interested in plugging the hole or bailing very much of it out. Time after time, we've had this conversation. But the thing is, what I keep telling people is the regular American citizen does care. And that's not just a Republican or Democrat issue. I have well, I don't know if you want to call it pleasure, but I do know some Democrats. And they will tell you privately, yeah, we have to deport illegal immigrants. What are you talking about? You see, for years, this was not a Republican versus Democrat issue. I can show you Democrat after Democrat after Democrat in the history of the United States who openly campaigned on stronger borders. We are bordered with a narco state. Frankly, a lot of people would call it a narco-terrorist state. And there are parts of it with a border fence that a 3-year-old child could crawl through. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the United States of America to have this situation on our southern border. And it gets even better. We have candidates like Elizabeth Warren who are, just listen.
The president's deeply immoral actions have made it obvious we need to rebuild our immigration system from top to bottom, starting by replacing ICE with something that reflects our morality and that works.
Something that reflects our morality. Their immigration enforcement officers, their job is simply to find somebody who's here illegally, detain said person, remove said person. That's their job. But we all know what she's saying. Look, we don't have to do that thing everyone else does where we kind of, who knows we know what she means. We don't need immigration enforcement. There should be no interior immigration enforcement, according to Elizabeth Warren. And Elizabeth Warren is not just some crackpot. She's a crackpot with a good chance at winning the Democrat nomination for President of the United States of America, which puts her one economic recession or major Donald Trump scandal away from the White House. These people are real. It's not just Elizabeth Warren. It's across the Democrat Party. Here's Bernie Sanders.
Today, I make a very simple promise to you that protecting the undocumented, that comprehensive immigration reform, that reinstating the legal status to the 1.8 million young people in DACA, that creating a humane border policy will be at the top of my agenda. This will not be something we will do in a year or in 2 years. We will bring the best minds in the immigrant community together to help us write the best laws and to use the powers of the presidency to undo the terrible, terrible damage that this president has done, not just to the immigrant community, but to the integrity of our entire country.
Whoa, that's funny. That makes Bernie Sanders the only commie in history who didn't want secure borders. Do you realize what the American left is, ladies and gentlemen? You do realize this is not normal, right? Even the commie scum throughout the history of mankind, the worst of the worst, the Bolsheviks, wherever you want to go, even they believed in strong border enforcement. Granted, half the time they were just trying to keep their people in, but even they didn't want to stop. Even they didn't want to just wide open the borders, just kick the border open, let everybody in, because they knew their crazy socialist systems would collapse under the weight if you just imported any third world person who decided they wanted to hop the border. It's madness. Nobody supports this. The regular citizen, I should say, doesn't support this. And you know what's so funny is I see Republicans making this mistake all the time too. Well, we have to win the Hispanic vote. Have you guys ever talked to a Hispanic person in the world? Some of my best friends are Hispanic. I talk to them all the time. I have yet to talk to a single one who's all, you know what, just throw the border open, screw it. I came here legally, but now I think everybody should just get to traipse right across. That's not how people think. Normal people do not think that way. Washington morons who, well, let me check the poll numbers, think that way. It's pathetic. And on top of this, we're not just talking about politics, we're talking about a real human cost. I want you to imagine something right now. You put your husband, father, grandfather in a car, or in this case, on a tractor, and send him off to the store, and the next thing you hear is your phone ringing. And you answer it, and he's dead. Why? Because that piece of gutter trash you see on the screen got drunk and ran into him and murdered him. 50-some years old. That's the reality of it. Let us not forget Molly Tibbetts either. Dead. And by the way, the show's only 1 hour long, so I don't have time to go through every single United States citizen either killed or mangled by an illegal immigrant. Oftentimes an illegal immigrant who'd already been deported multiple times, but we drop them off in Mexico and they say, oh, thanks, I'll see you in 5 minutes. And they turn around and walk right back to the daggone border. And I'm tired of people paying lip service to it. Vote for me and I'll do something about it. And none of them ever do. It's pathetic. And this issue is driving a wedge not between Republicans and Democrats, between the political elite, the pundits and the politicians, and the people who actually have to live with this crap. And I didn't even talk about jobs. Oh, I didn't even want to go there when we're talking about life and death of other people. It's time to start demanding real action. And I watched this so many times in my life. I used to live in Arizona. I saw every Tom, Dick, and Harry politician be a complete border squish. Well, I mean, we should do comprehensive immigration reform during the off-election years. And then an election year rolls around, and there's his stupid face on the television. Well, just elect me, and we'll build the wall. The wall never came, but the illegal immigrants kept on coming. In case you can't tell, makes my blood boil. Coming up now to talk about that and other things, President of the Security Studies Group, my friend, former Green Beret Jim Hansen. Here he is. Hang on. Joining me now as I rant and rave and my blood pressure goes through the roof tonight is my friend, former Green Beret and current president of the Security Studies Group, Jim Hansen. Jim, before I get to the illegal immigrant stuff, I have to address this Chick-fil-A thing in the beginning. I went off about it in the monologue. I'm not sure if you've seen. Chick-fil-A decides under pressure from cities like San Antonio and Boston and airports in Delaware, they're going to stop giving to groups like the Salvation Army and the Fellowship of Christian Athletes who just help people out because of their perceived anti-LGBT stance. And it's not that I really give a crap about Chick-fil-A, Jim. Popeye's chicken sandwich is actually way better anyway. It's not that I care about Sprite and Coke and everything else, but what I do care about is no culture wins for the right that I can see in a century, man. It only goes one way. So what's happening to me is I wake up every morning kind of libertarian and I go to bed every single night ready for Donald Trump to nationalize every industry. What's the solution here?
Well, let's not nationalize every industry, but let's weaponize the culture war. You know, I mean, for too long, we had the GOPE and the soft, Republican wusses in charge. And that's not the case anymore. We fight now. So when you attack us, we attack back. Now, not everybody can do it, and people will cave, and it's unfortunate. But the rest of us have to then decide we're going to fight every single battle that much harder going forward. So I had Popeyes for lunch today. You know, hey, I'm sorry, Chick-fil-A. You got to stand up and fight for our team.
I love it. Look, I did too. I'll be honest with you. People can call me a reactionary or immature, and both those things are undoubtedly true. I drove right down to Popeyes. Look, I might get stabbed in Popeyes, but at least they're not going to stab me in the back.
Oh, that hurts. And then that Mardi Gras mustard, dude, that's rocking.
It's true. It's true. But in all seriousness, Jim, I understand why so many of these Republicans are retiring from the Senate, from the House of Representatives. So many of these guys were the soft belly, flat in the front guys we didn't want on our side. Anyway, I do get that this total war politics era is not going to be for everyone. But when are we going to get any wins? What are going to be the solutions? If the left is going to be able to use an airport authority for their agenda, they're going to use the city council in San Antonio for their agenda. I now can't watch a movie. I can't watch a Sprite commercial without finding out my wife's supposed to cut off my kid's Johnson. What is the solution? How do we take back corporate America?
I'm not sure we take back corporate America. We need to take back American culture. All right, corporations are people, I guess, legally, but they do not represent us. And we can, yes, we can boycott, but we're never going to do that with the vehemence and with the, religious fervor of the secular left. So we need to pick our battles and we need to fight them better. And that's just it. It's about fighting. I saw something good today. There's a guy in the NSC named Kash Patel who was lied about by Politico and by leaks from Adam Schiff. He's suing them. They're suing Politico. How good is that? That's the kind of stuff we got to do. When they attack ours, we got to fight back and hit them. And that's the game. Every place we can find it out.
See, I like that. I like that when that Nicholas Salmon decided he was going to lawyer up when they dragged his poor 17-year-old butt through the mud. He lawyered up, and he's suing everybody under the sun. I love it. I look, if that's the way we have to play, I'm not exactly a lawsuit guy, then screw it. Let's all just lawyer up. I'm going to start suing everybody.
But that's it. You have to take the game the way it's available. We can't have the world we want. We have to fight in the world we have. And that's the way the rules are. We can use Zelensky's rules back against them, make them play by their own rule book. And trust me, they are so much more intellectually incoherent and incapable of squaring the circle of all their victim groups, which are currently shooting at each other, that all we have to do is push back when they do something stupid, and they'll collapse of their own incoherence.
I like hearing that. You know what? You're inspiring me right now, Jim. That's good, because I need it, because I'm just as upset about the border thing. Look, it's just another story in 1,000. Some illegal immigrant, of course, somebody we've deported 3 times, comes back in the United States, kills a father and grandfather and husband who was riding to the store on his tractor, of all things, slams into the guy, throws off, it kills him. Jim, I find this to be the issue that gives us the greatest disconnect between D.C. and the rest of America. Every American, honestly, half the Democrats, if not more, want a stronger border and want illegals deported. But this, for some reason, does not translate to the pundit class or the politicians at all. Why? What is this disconnect?
You know, I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know why that doesn't happen, but I'll tell you what can happen. Trump has shown a willingness to fight hard on this issue. It's one of his signature issues. So why don't we go after the sanctuary cities? That's something anybody with 10 cents worth of common sense can see is crazy. You can't decide, I'm the sheriff of such and such city, and I'm not going to enforce these laws. And therefore, I'm going to allow all these illegals to stay. I'm going to stop ICE from coming to my courthouse and scarfing them up. Wrong. If you take a dime of federal money, then you have an obligation to enforce federal law, or guess what? We'll take it back. And we may come for you and let civil suits and other things happen if anyone gets hurt, if someone gets raped by an illegal alien, if someone gets hit on their tractor by an illegal alien, whatever that damage is caused by your sanctuary policies, we're coming for you.
I love it. Do you think that he can't? I understand that this would get challenged in the courts about a nanosecond after he passed it, but do you think this is something Donald Trump can do by executive order? Because you'll have to excuse me if I don't have any confidence in Congress to actually pass something like this.
Yeah, no, I don't think Congress is even necessarily involved in this. Now, it would be nice. Okay, the more pieces of our government that are all saying and doing the same thing, the better. But it's the second Trump. Okay, Trump says, I'm cutting funding to this sanctuary city because they're stopping illegals from being deported. Okay, he gets sued. They go to court. They do that. He picks another place to do it and gets a better judge this time. Eventually, it bubbles up to the Supreme Court. I just can't believe that it is legal to ignore federal laws and to obstruct federal law enforcement while you got your hand out saying, here, give me some money. I want to redistribute some wealth within my district, taking it from other people. I don't see how that works. We'll find out. But if nothing else, it'll remind people how absurd the sanctuary concept is.
That's a great point. And I think people do forget, Jim. I think it's easy to forget, especially because most of the people that live in cities, with all due respect to you, are crazy people. I think it's easy to forget that most of us in rural America don't realize there are cities in the United States of America that openly give the finger to the federal government on immigration law. It really is beyond comprehension.
Mm-hmm. And I'm with you, dude. You realize, I'm an infiltrator here in the swamp. I mean, I live on the hilltop overlooking the swamp just so I can keep an eye on them for all of our friends in the rest of real America. So I will take advantage of the viewpoint I have and the inside access that I do have here to make sure that the rest of America hears about this insanity. And that's the advantage we have now. Last time I checked, people like you weren't allowed to have shows last election time. right? I mean, this is a new thing. We have new vantage points. We have new soapboxes to stand on. And if you just point out the absurdity of what the left is trying to do to this country, they kill themselves better than we ever could.
Jim, I can't believe I'm going to say this to an Army guy, but I actually feel better after having talked to you tonight.
Hey, dude, we had fun. Congratulations, Marine Corps birthday. That was a fun day for me. I always think everybody should have a squad of Marines, kind of the same way people keep dogs. There's things they can do that other people can't.
That's totally fair.
Love
Jim
you, man.
Hansen, president of the Security Studies Group. I'll talk to you soon, my brother.
All right.
Now, how to snowplow and how not to snowplow. I'll explain in a second. It'll make sense. Ladies and gentlemen, before I chose to grace the great state of Texas with my presence, I moved to Montana when I was 10 years old. Granted, my parents kind of made that decision. But I don't know if you've heard, Montana gets cold. It gets really cold, it gets really snowy. And as such, I have had to shovel lots and lots of snow in my lifetime. Granted, we never could afford a big fancy snowblower, but I do know the basic techniques that come with plowing snow, with shoveling snow. So allow me to direct your attention to this video of a Tedra Cobb who celebrated raising $1 million by posting this video on her Twitter account of her pulling out a snow plow to plow 1 inch of snow on top of it. And you're going to love this part. Hang on to the very end. You see where she's plowing that 1 inch of snow? Towards her own house and now onto her own staircase. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to be a politician and you're going to pander for something, it is not difficult to do what they do in the movies for every other faker in the world. Practice. Have an audition or two. Maybe even make a phone call. She clearly lives in a snowy region. Call up the neighbor. Hey, just so I don't look like a dummy, should I plow the snow towards or away from my home? And of course, she had to go into the comments section pretty quickly and tell everybody that it was a solar-powered snowplow, which explains exactly why it's only capable of plowing an inch of snow. Democrats, ladies and gentlemen, don't be one. We'll be back tomorrow. Maybe I'll calm down. Maybe I won't. It's my show. See you then.